Hey module makers, Drafts here. Good news, the Modulus demo has just had an update, and it's a big one. You can check out the full patch notes for all the juicy details, and stay tuned for a brand new devlog coming on June the 8th, where we dig into what's new. But right now, we're going to be taking a step back and look under the hood at how Modulus is built to support smart systems, scalable design, and creative freedom. Here's technical artist and game designer Thomas Preudhomme on the philosophy behind the systems powering your factories. Hello everybody, my name is Jarves, as the intro probably just said, and I'm here today with Thomas. Tom, do you want to introduce yourself a bit?
Yeah, hello everybody. So I'm Thomas, I'm the technical artist here, but also have been doing a lot of game design actually on the game. So yeah, kind of a technical designer if you can say.
Yeah, you're a bit of everything, to be honest.
Small company, eh?
That's what happens in indie dev, guys. Everybody wears lots of different hats. It's kind of the fun of indie though as well, isn't it? Like getting to
for sure.
Do lots and lots of
the same thing again.
Yeah. Every day you never know what you're going to do, which is cool.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, we're here to show off the updated version of the demo. We're really excited to share all the things that we've put in it, and hopefully you guys are too. We've had a sneak peek at what the community think, because we've done a play test in the last couple of weeks for this build of the demo. So the play testers have tried it out and given us some feedback, and it's been really, really useful. So if you're one of those play testers, thank you. We appreciate you. And soon we'll probably do another one, but with the actual like full release sort of stuff rather than just the demo. But for now, let's show this off. I thought we would do kind of an interview while Thomas plays. He's playing because he is the best in the company at the game. The best.
Yeah. No argue. There.
Yep.
Literally the best.
He just is. He is though. Like even David will say that. David's our game director. He will admit that Thomas is the man to go to for playing the game basically and filming it. So he's much better than I am. I am not a expert when it comes to optimization. I am a good spaghetti player. That is me. So it's much better to have Thomas playing than have me play, unless you want to watch chaos, in which case walk my way. And we're going to ask some questions as we go, basically. So Thomas is just going to play the demo, and then I'm going to just dive in. Some of the questions I've written down and Thomas has seen, some of them I'm just going to throw at him. So he may just
be more and more embarrassed.
Yeah, may just be put on the spot sometimes. But I thought this would be better if it was just a human conversation. And we kind of went from there. So we're starting it off by looking at what I've called the building the blocks of intelligence. So designing the operators basically is what we're looking at. And the operators, for those of you that don't know, are kind of what you can see right now are the smaller machines, buildings in the games that do specific things to your modules, right? So like you were just in the cutter then? Were you in the cutter? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So yeah, I am paying attention. I am, I promise. But yeah, so there's different ones. So the first question is, what was the process for designing individual operators like the cutter, stamper, and assembler?
Yeah, the process was quite long, to be fair. I think it's very interesting because those three, right, the cutter, assembler, and stamper that you see later on in the game, it's kind of the basic like three operators that do everything in the game. Like you can do every module with those, which is interesting but also very hard. And like if you look at the assembler, for example, which lets you drag drop stuff, then you can rotate them around and basically you can do kind of anything. It's nice because you literally drag drop, but before it was like arrows that you had to click, and that kind of stuff was super wonky, but also much more precise, because you can imagine that when you have holes and everything, then it starts to be actually hard to manage this. So yeah, that's kind of like a thing that's still I would say undergoing into like making this all more like user friendly and everything, but while keeping the kind of playful aspect of just dragging stuff together.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that obviously this is a demo, so like things will change by the time the game fully comes out, and they're changing all the time basically, mostly based on your guys' feedback, because one of the things people were saying was that like when they first tried the demo, moving things around in there wasn't quite as intuitive as they wanted it to be, and that's already improved loads. And so we're listening.
Yeah, sure.
We're listening, and we are
sure.
constantly iterating. I hadn't seen that green box on it before either. When you're dragging it around and it shows up.
That's a new thing. If you see like a shape being basically a thing that you can do.
Yeah.
Right? If it's like too far away and stuff, you can sometimes not have it being shown. But yeah, that's basically it. It's just something that acknowledges the fact that you're doing it, basically.
Yeah, it's a nice little quality of life feature there. I like that. Because I haven't played this yet, the new build. I've been way too busy to dive in. So some of this stuff is like, I knew it's there, but I haven't seen it. So it's nice. It's really nice to see.
It is nice, yeah.
Okay.
It's really fun because
carry on.
Also, you had previously like a thing called the rotator, which we completely removed. But now you rotate stuff inside these operators, and that wasn't the case before, and that made everything way harder. I think that's also something we noticed players do, like just hated it basically.
Yeah.
And so we just completely removed it, put it into the basic operators, and it just works fine, So
that's it. Like, it's an extra step you just don't need, right? Like, you can
exactly
get rid of it and streamline your factory. And especially for those people that really like optimization, getting rid of those extra steps is like a big deal.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So the next question is: were any tools particularly hard to balance between flexibility and usability?
Yeah, I mean, I think I just talked about it, but I think the assembler is actually the hardest one to balance, because you really want it to be like as flexible as possible, right? You really want it to feel like you're just playing with these, I guess, Legos, right? With your hands.
TM.
TM. You didn't say that. I didn't say that. But yeah, but then you also need the precision, to do everything that you can in the game. And so it's pretty hard to find like the right balance between making that assembler like as free as possible to use in useful ways, and then just keeping it simple to use, basically.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that makes sense. Okay, are there operator combinations that you find really satisfying?
There is one. It's gonna take me a while to get to it though.
That's fine. We can come back to that.
Yeah. It is like one of the modules that's asked, and I show it is a pretty nice setup that I found recently, which is interesting. I've been playing this game for I don't know 4 years. How long has it been since first prototype? And you still find new strategies now, which is always fun. It's like how does that happen? But yeah,
I like that though, because I said that to David when we did our interview before, was that like when I first was playing the demo, I was doing things and then talking to you and being like, oh, that's how you do it. I completely did it in a different way. But I think that adds, like, for people like me anyway, I think that adds quite a lot of replayability, because I actually found when I first did the demo, I think I did it like 3 times, and I did it completely differently every time based on like small little tweaks and stuff. And that was really satisfying, because by the time I did my last one, I was like, oh, this looks so much better. It's so much more smart.
Yeah, for sure. It is very nice. Yeah, I mean, I do that as well, Whenever I play, I just feel like I'm playing differently every time. I'm just doing something else. Just like, oh, actually, would be fun if I do it this way this time, It's like...
Yeah, experimenting.
That's the beauty of it, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I really like that. And also, like, one of the things that we've got in the new demo that we didn't have before was creative mode. And we had, like, the Zen mode in the previous one, but that was slightly different. That was basically just the no mission version of the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Whereas creative mode now allows you to make wild voxel designs with all of the colors unlocked and all of the tools and things like that. And I think that's one thing that players are having a lot of fun with, is like, oh, how can I do something to create this in this way that, like, they're challenging themselves to do it, and I really like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially watching the Discord.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's also kind of an interesting thing we'll see people use, because, for example, paint, which, is used to paint modules, is something in the campaign side of game you have to make yourself. And if you don't have an efficient factory, then you're gonna struggle to actually have a lot of paints, right?
Yeah.
And in creative mode, it's literally just on the ground. You can just pick it up and use it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it really just enables you to do whatever you want, really, without the constraints of what the game, is trying to
challenge you. Yeah. I like that though, because I like that extra level of challenge and like having to really think through how I do it. But then I also love the fact that I can just go and play. Just be like,
for sure. Yeah.
What can I make? Which is good. Oh, I see that what you just did there. That's what I wasn't doing to begin with. Is like setting up a system and then copying up the whole system, sort of thing. That's so smart, and I was so dumb and didn't do that in the beginning.
I mean, I think it's also these kind of things where, if you look at other games, usually this kind of tool is way later on in the game. It's something that's blocked for a long time because it feels very powerful. You can just, pick everything up, put it somewhere else, just duplicate, and there you go. You can,
Yeah.
It feels very powerful. But I think it's nice that we just allow it very early on, just because that way you never have the feeling of, oh, I have to do that again.
Yeah.
Because you can just duplicate stuff. So it's like, okay, let me just, dump that production or whatever. And then just feels nice.
It is, and it also comes back to like what kind of the aim of the making Modulus is to create something that's a bit more meditative and a bit more relaxed and stress-free. So like, whereas your Factorios and types are more, there's a level of stress there, right? Like having to defend or do things in time limits and all these different things.
Sure, yeah.
Whereas we want it to be like, this is a factory game, but this is a factory game to help you chill. Like, this is to unwind and just relax, and I think those sorts of tweaks and quality of life things that we've really thought about make that happen. I think people have noticed it, which is really, really nice.
Yeah, that's true.
It's already way more efficient than I would have had it. I'm just looking at it and I'm like, oh my god, this is why we get Thomas to show the game. But yeah,
there is one thing that
a
lot of players ask for is this.
Oh yeah, getting rid of the trees.
Let's go.
You can also place them, right? You can place trees now as well.
You can, not yet though, but later on in the demo you can unlock that feature, basically.
Yeah. See, that's where people like me will just spend way too much time making a pretty factory. Not that it helps with the efficiency at all, but like, I'm that player. I will do that.
Yeah, I get that, yeah.
And like, obviously we haven't announced what all of the cosmetics and stuff are going to be, but we are going to be putting cosmetics into the game. We have said that. And for players like me, that's really exciting, because once I've made my factory the way I want it to, I'm then going to be the person that makes it so pretty and takes the most screenshots ever. So being able to do that with the foliage as well as the factory, I think is really nice. It's it's again a nice little touch that you can make it your factory, right? Like personalize it.
Yeah, for sure. I think it really like came up in the Discord as well when we saw players like doing actual cosmetics and then using conveyor belts just to populate like as if you had cosmetics. And you really like, let me just add a bunch of cosmetics for you all. Yeah,
because like I think it was Trixit in the Discord that made little Easter bunnies at Easter, and
Yeah,
then there were like
that was
little
so nice.
bunnies placed around. They were so cute.
Yeah.
And I think the same person made little people at one point that were like little bot people.
Yeah, just hiding in the grass.
Yeah.
Like, that's so nice.
I loved that. That's the thing. This community already, like in just such a short space of time, because we're not even at 2 months since the demo's been out yet. By the time this video goes up, it'll be 2 months, but now it hasn't been. And the amount of things that people have made and done in the community is amazing. Like,
yeah, it is. It really is.
They're really, really inspiring, actually. Like, they keep you going and being like, oh, they're having so much fun with it. Like, this is really worth it, and we're really enjoying what you guys are doing. So thank you if you're one of those players, because we literally screenshot what you're doing and send it on Slack, and we're like, look what they've done. This is amazing. So know that it's appreciated, because it's really cool. So the next section of questions is teaching complexity without overwhelming people, right? Because one of the big things that we had was feedback about the tutorial. The tutorial wasn't what people were wanting, right? So one of the things I think people may not be aware of is like the balance of having to try and get a tutorial that works for people who maybe haven't been into this genre before, but also doesn't hold the hand of players that are like thousands of hours into Factorio, for example.
For sure.
And
I think
that's hard.
Yeah, it is like super hard to, in general, just making a tutorial is hard.
Yeah.
You can't expect every players to play the same, right? And especially in factory games, which are kind of a niche, and we are trying to attract more people. And then you basically have these like factory players who just know how the game should, work, and so they expect everything to just not. I mean, if you look at Factorio, there isn't really a tutorial. Yeah, it's just very you do you try figure it out, And we could have done that, and we tried actually, but the amount of players who struggled because of that was just too many. So we had to like have this kind of hand-holdy onboarding. But to be fair, we are again demo. We are learning as we see players play.
Yeah.
And I think later on we might try kind of a hybrid solution where the game would kind of detect if you're good enough, or like if you're playing super fast through the onboarding, then it would probably tell you, okay, it seems like you kind of know how to do stuff, right? So maybe you don't want to be hand-holded. Do you want to skip everything, and then you could just press yes, please,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
so I think it would remove that kind of pain that some players might feel, especially in the beginning, where it's like you can't place anything like any other place.
Yeah, you have to follow it.
And so that kind of stuff you could avoid basically. But we see that for players who need it, it is pretty useful, right? So then they're like, okay,
that's it. We've had feedback on both sides, so it's like you guys really don't want it, and you guys really do, and we're like trying to make you both happy.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think we're already a much further sort of like middle ground as it is, because we've added in, for example, like the what word did we use for it? A manual? Is that what we've called it?
Yeah.
It
is in here. Yeah, the manual,
yeah.
Which gives you a lot of information on basically everything that you may want to know.
And that wasn't there at all before, so that's really helpful, especially for people that like, for me, for example, my memory is not the greatest, so when I get a tutorial thing pop up and then it's gone, I'm like, I can't remember what that said. So like having a manual to go back and know what these things do and how they do it and stuff, I think is really, really useful.
Yeah, that's fair. I think especially for these kind of things where it's like, oh, you should use like 8 extractors for a furnace because of these speeds, and you kind of show it in a tutorial but don't really explain it, and then people would do, I think they would just put like this and be like, yeah, that's probably fine, or just use a speeder in front, but that actually makes it everything like 2 times slower, and then you don't really realize. So that's the kind of things that now we can look at it now there and then see if it's
really easy to get to. You can go to at any point. Like it's I think that's a massive improvement already on what the demo was before. And I think
there is also maybe a point about the speeds while I talk about it.
Go for it.
Because this kind of stuff previously was also hard to know because you would kind of not have the information. Now you kind of have it everywhere. Now we make sure it is like 30 operations per minute. If you like enter operators, that's also said on these left and right corners, what's the expected output and stuff. You also have the efficiency view, which tells you kind of how well things are working.
There's a lot of red on your map right now, sir.
Yeah, there is a lot of red. Yeah, I mean, everything is stopped right now. Because I'm not,
I'm going to move you a minute because your camera is over the little bit. There we go, you moved. So down there, oh no, go back to heat mode. There we go. We've been calling it heat mode or heat map, and it's efficiency view.
Heat map efficiency.
But down the side here you can see like the key basically of what it all means and how good your factory is. Expect mine to be red a lot of the time, I imagine, but it gives you a better view, and I think that again is another thing that makes it really easy to identify what's going wrong, what's not. And it should help people who are new in particular to be like, oh, okay, this is where the problem is, right? Like, this is what I need to do. I need to sort this out.
Exactly,
So
as you can see now, everything is trying to turn green because everything is now like efficiently working every time.
Yeah.
So it like every time they try to do an operation, they succeed. That's what it means. And so now everything is green because everything is always working. I put like a dumpster here, like a scrapper.
See,
trash.
that's the other thing that we've added, though. Like,
Yep, that
the
is a new
bin.
thing. Yeah.
The bin. Get in the bin.
Yeah, it sounds very funny to add it on only now, but also it feels great now that we have it. So yeah, there it is.
I need to do some kind of meme of get in the bin with this and put it on. That's a very British saying, but it's a good one. But yeah, so why, like, the bin? Why did we add it? What was the purpose of it? Why did we put it in there?
Yeah, I mean, for once it was like some players wanted it, so we're like, okay, sure, it's easy to do, so let's just add it, I think it's also some cases where you would want, like, there is like a additional module that you really don't want, so you just remove it, especially with this one. But mostly one of the big issue with the heat map or the efficiency view and the counter, which is this one, which is loading at the moment, which counts the number of things passing through to tell you the speed of it. The problem was, like, let's say I put it here, right, the counter.
Yeah.
There you go. Then you wouldn't actually know that this is producing 30 per minute because nothing is passing through because it's blocked, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm currently building on it, and that's almost always the case on every line. Like everything is always kind of blocked. Even if you look at here, right? Like it's all working as fast as it could, right? The cranes are picking up as fast as they can, but the modules, there is like too many of them.
Yeah.
So now you have some sort of these just not fast enough. So you could, if you want to, put some bins here, because resources are unlimited, so you don't really care,
Yeah.
And now you will get the actual good frequency. You can look at this, and this will never be, well, it's gonna turn green in a moment, but that's how you can track stuff being at the speed that you want, basically. So yeah, it's kind of necessary really when you use the counter. You can see here 30.
Then
great.
You can see, the maximum efficiency sort of thing with it. I think that's
Exactly.
a really nice touch, especially for people that really, really want to get that optimization to like peak levels, right? That
For
little
sure, for
tiny
sure.
thing helps a lot, and you can use it kind of at any point along it to see what's working efficiently, what's not working efficiently, what you need to change and things like that. So it's great that it's in there, and it's just a little thing. Again, the counter as well, like another thing we didn't have before. You guys wanted to see these sorts of numbers, so we've added them in and made it more efficient. I haven't actually answered any of the questions about this section that I wanted to ask yet, but how do you introduce layered mechanics in a way that's approachable for people?
Right, yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. I think the biggest thing we changed when I look back on the development is making everything bite-sized, like the whole concept of modules. It's something you should look at and understand somewhat quickly how to do.
Yeah.
And making that bite-sized is very, very important, because that's how you make a player want to continue and not be overwhelmed, right?
Yes.
And I think even like, putting these 3 different modules instead of, merging into one, or even previously what we had was basically this. It was like, we would show a picture of this and be like, okay, make it yourself. And you're like, how am I supposed to make that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so, yeah, I think that was the biggest change, actually. And then just making, everything a small goal once after another, and then you kind of, without yourself even like knowing, you're just making buildings now, and like, oh, actually I made that because I made those modules, right?
Yeah.
And you kind of only realize afterwards, which is quite nice.
Yeah, I like that. It's a nice little discovery sort of moment. You're like, oh, right. I did that.
Yeah,
That
sure.
was me. Which I think is nice. I think that, like, for those that haven't played the demo before, like, that's one of the things that I really liked about this game, is that where other factory games you're making stuff and it kind of goes off into a void, basically. With this, everything you make there's a purpose for it. You're using it to construct other buildings in your factory to make other things for your factory, right? So, and you can see that. You can literally see it do that in real time, which it's a small thing, but it's a big thing when you get that level of satisfaction, right? You're like, that was like really cool. Like, I made that, it went in, I saw it happen. And it's the same with upgrades. Like, you need to actually produce the things for it to do it.
Yeah, I think I would really say also props to Antoine, which is our artist.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Who made this possible, right? He made actually like every model you see, right? 48 needed to build this level are like they are used one by one, right? To make this building, which is insane to think about. Like
how he calculated that and worked that out when he was designing the.
I still don't get it, you know. I'm still just in awe every time. I'm like, okay, cool, that looks great, good job. But I'm just like, damn, what?
I know every time. So Antoine is just a wizard, basically. Like,
basically,
absolute wizard. And Zillard as well, who's our intern. They're both absolutely amazing. And every time they pop something in Slack, and they're like, oh, this is this, and you look at it and you think, oh, that looks really cool. And then when you sit there and you think, oh, wait a minute, that actually has to be made like block by block, and every single part of that they've built had to be thought about in terms of like how it's going to look when it gets put together, and making sure that all the space is filled by the modules exactly, and like he's a proper architect.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's also like everything is in drawers as well, because you have to upgrade and place one after the other.
Yeah,
I know, it's insane.
He blows my mind. He really does. He's going to be really embarrassed with us doing this, but like genuinely, that man is a wizard. He's so good at what he does. And Zillard as well. Like Zillard, he's at uni, right? Zillard is, like to be as good as he is, where he is in his career is really impressive. So we work with some pretty badass people. That's it's really cool. Okay, so next question. Any lessons from playtesting about when players click with a certain system, like something they particularly liked that you didn't expect, for example?
I think that there wasn't specifically a thing that we didn't anticipate players would like.
Yeah.
It is hard to say. I think I guess the biggest surprise for me, at least, was more of the creative side of things.
Yeah.
Where people just like to make pixel art or 3D, cosmetics items we talked about, that kind of things. I mean, we always knew that there was gonna be some sort of arts related, creations, but not to that extent.
Not to the extent,
Yeah, that's probably the biggest surprise that we got.
It really was though, wasn't it? Like, because within like a week or so, someone made an entire world map with a QR code in the middle of it that linked to the store page. All we asked was for a QR code, and they made a world map. I was like, how? How does your brain work to do that in a factory game? Like,
for sure. That's
honestly,
crazy,
that blew us all away. We were very much like, oh, this game is going to be like that for these people. Like, they're going to make wild things that we didn't even think was possible. Which is cool, because it's a completely different type of player, right? Like you've got the people who are in it just for the factory side of things, and then you've got it for the people that are kind of more the cozy player, right, who play it to unwind or to be creative. And I think that's what makes Modulus special, to me anyway, is that it's not just one thing, right? Like it's different for different players, and I think that's really nice.
Yeah, for sure.
And it makes it more approachable, definitely more approachable. Because me, for example, like shapes I can play. I like shapes, I enjoyed that. But Factorio is not for me. Like it's too intense, too much pressure, too much need to be good at optimization.
I see what you mean. I mean, there's also enemies and stuff that you have to take care of, so it's always kind of in your head. But that's difference. Whereas
this for me is like I can play it and be really methodical and like have that side of it, but I can also just chill and unwind with it, and I think that's something that makes it really special, and I love that about it. So one of the next sections for questions is like about balancing creativity and efficiency, so it's kind of a good point to move on to that actually. So is there a tension between solving and expressing in Modulus? So like making a pretty factory but making it efficient at the same time, or do you think that that's fairly easy to do?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say tension. I think it's kind of, you always have these modules to do and to solve them, kind of, if you think of them as puzzles.
Yeah.
And then you end up with something, right? May it be beautiful or not. And I think, you might have some players, go back and make everything pretty if they want to. You really don't have to, but I can imagine why you would do that. It's
Yeah.
also sometimes, pretty is like a kind of a subjective thing to think about. So
Yeah.
if you want to, just say, oh, this is elegant, and some people might say, actually, I like it better when there is like one space between, so you can see the modulus going and stuff. You can also think about compactness, and I don't think like it's necessary. You have enough space to do whatever you want, right?
Yeah.
Of course, at some point you might not, to make it a bit more challenging for you later on in the game. I mean, but yeah, I think that's more of a overlap rather than a tension, really.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think a lot of people will like make the module however they need to, and then those that want to make it pretty, like you said, can go back and then adjust. That's what I did.
Mm-hmm.
I went back and was like, oh, I should probably move this over here. Then it wouldn't be a giant conveyor belt that doesn't need to be there, sort of thing. But that's that like learning process, I think, that goes with it. I think kind of the space thing is a good question to ask. That wasn't one that I wrote down though, really, is that like some players, because they're used to games that just have like infinity space, for example, have come up against the fact that we're doing it differently in that aspect, where we've got our islands, and found that challenging to get their head around. What was kind of the reasoning for doing it this way?
You mean using islands?
Yeah, instead of just letting them have infinite space to build.
Yeah, I think we kind of tried both, and we actually like both solutions. I think it's interesting to see players who like having a restricted area, like on space.
Yeah.
It makes for like interesting challenges when you have like very limited amount of space. These kind of things you might think it's just just a bridge that you can use, but you start at some point, like later on in the game, when you have a lot of stuff going on, it starts to become like very small space, because you only have 6, 7 space to transport items through.
Yeah.
And so then that becomes kind of a challenge, and in general, just having less space is a good way for us to keep having a logistical challenge in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's also a way to kind of dim down the powerfulness of copy paste, because if you had any amount of space, you could literally just copy paste everything like in an array and then, go to the space and whatever. But that's not possible here because of these kind of blockers.
So
which
it's
I think is nice.
thing.
You have to have some limits to every tool you have, right?
Yeah, and also I think that's
yeah.
another thing that like Modulus is more puzzle based than I think other factory games are, and I think that really leans into that aspect of it. It's another thing that makes it a bit more unique, is that it's not just do whatever you want with your factory and keep going. It's okay, I have this space to build within, and there are confines within that. Like, how am I going to think cleverly about using this space is a big part of it,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
And you will unlock way more space than there is in the demo right now. So although the demo feels a little bit restrictive, there's going to be loads of islands. I don't know the definite amount, because I think we're still deciding that at the moment, but from the concepts and things like that Anton has showed us, there's going to be loads.
It's going to be massive.
Yeah, and there's also going to be upgrades in the tech tree that allow you to sort of make your conveyors go across the space that isn't a bridge, right? Where you can kind of make it go across and things like that. So the tech tree, which currently you can't see because it's grayed out, but that will also open up new ways to utilize the space in different ways, right? So although it might not seem like it, when the full game is out, there'll be lots more options for you when you get to that point. And I think that is thinking creatively. How can I do this? How can I change what I've already done to work with the new upgrade and make it more efficient? And I really enjoy that challenge, and I know a lot of players do. So it's cool.
Yeah, I think it's good that it adds a bit of, later on in the game you might come back to previous setup and try to optimize them or change them because of the new things you've unlocked.
Yeah.
I think that's always nice.
Yeah, it is. It gives you a reason to return to a space and sort of efficient thinking in the past kind of thing. We're like, okay, I'm going to go back and change this because I know that this could, make it better, which is nice. So then I guess the next question is, how do you support both the hardcore optimizers and the laid-back builders when designing systems for this game?
Yeah, I think the fact that there isn't, any drawback from not being fast at building stuff, and like there is no like fear of missing out, right? There is nothing that tells you, oh, you should have done this, or oh, you aren't fast enough to do that, or whatever. You really do it at your own pace, and I think that's kind of what's great about this, is because if you're fast about it, then great, you just move faster or whatever, and you go do more buildings, or you take more time optimizing, and then you really can choose whatever you want to do. And I think that really is how, like, there isn't much, there isn't like active things we think we have to think about to handle both type of players, because inherently the game is like that, it's already for everybody in its core design. So I think that's great.
Yeah, I think again that's something that makes it really special, is that you can kind of lean into it as much as you want to, or just play. Like there's no pressure. That's the key thing, right? You play it your way, which is really nice. I love that. And then I guess, like, what do you think? And this is like a complete prediction-based question, but do you think we'll see more players that are leaning into like being clever and optimizing and really thinking about efficiency, or do you think we'll see more of the creative people going for beautiful factories?
That's a great question. I think that's hard to say, because I think the player base is most likely more people who like optimization and efficiency, compactness, because those are usually the factory players.
Yeah.
But I think because we are attracting so many creative side of players, we might see that more in the Discord. Also because usually, arts kind of sells more visually.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's gonna be really just both, which is great.
Hopefully.
I see like people making like super compact, super efficient setups and sharing that, and people just making super creative art and sharing that instead. So I think that's great.
I think like we do. That's a good point, is that we do want to see both. So like we do a weekly screenshot competition, if you don't know about that. Every week you have a chance in our Discord and now on Steam as well to submit a screenshot from the demo. It has to be completely unedited, so you can't take it out and make it prettier with like Photoshop. It has to be in the game. But basically, whatever you want to do within game, you can then screenshot it and send it in. Sometimes we'll have a theme, sometimes we don't. This week we don't have a theme, for example. And in those weeks in particular, we're not looking for anything in particular. It's whatever comes in, we will pick the 3 that we like the most. And it doesn't have to be something that is like beautiful in terms of like you've drawn a work of art in it. It can just be a really efficient factory that looks badass, right? Like, we appreciate both. We like both styles of play. We love the output from both styles. So don't think you have to be an artist to enter that screenshot competition.
Yeah, for sure.
Because really organized factories are beautiful to us. So especially David gets very happy when he sees a very organized factory. So yeah, do enter that, because you can win the chance to get your like screenshot in the game for a week, and then you can also get a code for the game when it goes live. And now you're also entered automatically into a draw for a Modulus mystery merch bundle. I say mystery because we haven't finalized the designs yet, but you're going to get a big bunch of merch if you're the winner of that. So I want it, and I can't enter it.
Yeah, I want it too.
I know.
I actually want it too.
So yeah, hopefully more people will enter that now that there's been an update and you can do more things in it. I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys submit. So either the community hub on Steam or in our Discord. We accept it both ways now, which is cool. Okay, so moving on, smart mistakes and happy accidents is this section. So any unexpected player strategies or builds that surprised the team? Did anyone do anything that you weren't doing yourselves, or think of something really smart way of utilizing something?
Yeah, I think one that comes to mind is I saw some players merging models into one, like just different models into one big. just so that they could convey it on one conveyor belt and just gain space, and then later on they would just split it back into the modules that were merged, and so that was like a more compact way of transporting modules, like different ones, and I thought that was so like interesting to think about. I was never, you never
smart.
think about this kind of thing. Yeah, that is super smart.
That's really smart. I would not have thought of that. I can't wait to see what other things like that we get come up, because there will be things that we haven't anticipated.
Yeah, that is kind of where this, when I talked about the setup that I like of operators, which we would come later on, this is the time.
Okay.
Because that idea kind of emerged, I guess, another idea, which is this one. It's kind of funny where, you're trying to make this module, let me pin it, this one. So you're trying to make this, and then for some reason, you get these 4 output or inputs, right? And then what you try to do is basically you want to merge black and white, and then do this, right?
Yeah.
And you have it. But now, how do you merge these two, right? That kind of it kind of sucks, right? You have to make a tunnel and then take this one and then put, it's like kind of messy. And then one thing I realized recently was you could basically merge. Let me put everything back. You can merge like the black ones, kind of a sandwich with nothing in the middle.
Yeah.
And do the same with the white ones. Then merge them into these kind of Oreos. And then you can cut into 2.
Okay, that is smart.
So nice. I love this.
Yeah, okay.
So now I always do this now. Whenever I have basically it's like 4 inputs that aren't alternating and you need them to be alternating, then you just merge and then cut afterwards. That's so nice. That is just peak.
That is smart. That is really smart. See, these are the things that I just don't automatically think of doing myself. So every time I get to work with you and see what you do, I'm like, quick, remember that.
Yeah, for sure. No, this one is so good.
Yeah, that is good.
This one I do always now.
Yeah. That is nice. I reckon there'll be people watching this now that are like, oh. That's good. I realize. Yeah, that's good. So I think what we're going to do is I'm going to ask you to pause your game and to load a game that is like further in, because obviously this stream can't be like 2 hours long because no one's going to watch that on Steam. But what we would like to do is show like a little bit more further into the demo, and then we can kind of show off a more advanced build, I guess, without having to go through the process of making it.
That's fair, yeah, because I mean, I know that this one, which is kind of I did that last Friday, something like that.
Cool.
And it is all of the demo contents still have these like big deliveries, which gives you a surprise cosmetic here. Ooh, what it is? I don't know. But yeah, you do have trees, right? You can place. That's great. But you also have this when you finish everything, basically that's on the demo.
You get the bonus.
So that's good.
Yeah.
And then I mean, if it's not that different if you look at it, right? I mean, apart from the fact that I made it like wireless.
Yeah.
Just because I think it's funny, just the wireless setup, But yeah, it is technically. So we stopped at paints, like blue paint, and then here is like making these buildings where that will be the whole setup for these modules. Which one? These ones, right? The one we just left. So yeah, that kind of stuff's pretty nice. I just love trying to make super compact and wireless setup. I don't know why they look so funny to me. That
it does look. It looks like it's just on its own, like it's not connected to anything.
Exactly. Yeah,
but it is. It's just underground, which I like. Do you want to maybe go for people that haven't played the demo? Maybe go into the Stamper and show that off a minute, so people can see that. So go away, Mr. Pin.
Yeah, I can reset. So yeah, when a module comes in, you can rotate it around, and then you can basically select whatever area, and then that will be the one that's separating basically. So that makes holes way easier, because if you had to do that with cuts and assemble, that's a pain.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I like the stamper. It's one of the ones that
I
like
like it too,
in
yeah.
creative mode I can have a lot of fun with, like making different things and seeing what I can do with it. Especially for pixel art, right? Like that little tiny square at the top
True.
is very useful for doing
Yeah,
drawings
for sure,
and stuff.
for sure.
So it's really nice, and also you can see the efficiency on all the outputs and inputs and stuff. So they've upgraded everything a little bit since the first demo, which is nice for those people that want to see the efficient side of things. So we're going to talk a bit about sandbox versus challenge, basically. So how did you approach designing the game knowing that there's no combat timers or fail state? Like when you were doing that, kind of how would you show success in the game, for example? Like what were you thinking when you were doing that?
Yeah, I think it comes from the fact that you're actually making everything.
Yeah.
It kind of feels like a project, and every project that you succeed in making is always rewarding, right? And kind of the bigger the project, the more rewarding it feels at the end.
Yeah.
Which is great, but also is dangerous because you can, present a huge project to the players and then they just get overwhelmed rather than kind of excited. But I think that's how you get reward out of the game. It's not because you like have beaten a challenge per se. It's because you did something yourself. Like you overcome kind of the challenge itself is just making the model, right? And so it's not like you can take all the time you need, and that's great. You just do it, and then that's just satisfying in itself to complete it, right? To just finish a building.
You just saw a part of the upgrade happen there, like on the screen, and it is just so satisfying when it all just slots into place at the end, which I think
for sure,
it's a really nice little animation, because you see them going in bit by bit, but then at the end it kind of like takes them back out and drops them in all in one go sort of thing, and you get that ta-da moment, and I love that. It's really satisfying. And they're just really pretty when they're finished as well. I think that, again, Antoine managed to make these buildings modular and like work with the system, but also really cool to look at. Like,
yeah, for sure.
I love them. I want models of them. I need a 3D printer.
Yeah, same.
Just put them up on my wall. They're so cool. Okay, so then I don't think we really need to answer the next one, because it was like what's rewarding, because that is the thing. It is rewarding to do that. And also we haven't really they're not in the demo yet, but we've spoken about the monuments, and that's like a big ass building, basically, like the biggest thing possible, and there is a reason for building those, and you will uncover that kind of in the narrative that goes alongside the game, because there is a narrative. It's not a heavy narrative, but there is a narrative, and you will discover that on the release rather than really in the demo. But part of that is getting to these monuments, and these monuments are huge. They're really cool to look at as well. And that, when you complete those, that level of satisfaction is going to be on a different level, because you've had to really consider how you get there. I'm really looking forward to watching streams and seeing people finally do their first monument and seeing like how they react when they do it. So that would be really cool.
I think that's actually a pretty good point about, it's like you have so many buildings to do, monuments as well later on, and what happens is you finish delivering the modules to a building, but that building hasn't yet completed, right? Because it's picking the modules, and so you basically start on something else, but you already have the satisfaction of, oh, I did it, right? I finished, every module is correct. That's great. And then you go on making something else, and then in the meantime that building previously got completed, so you get like a second boost of, oh yeah, I made that building, even though you technically
already
didn't do
did.
more. It's just you just waited for it, kind of. You just did something else, but that just feels nice. It's just that's gonna be the same for monuments, because it's just huge, but because of the amount of modules, so you're gonna make it, and then later on, while doing something else, probably you're gonna see it completed and be like, yes, finished that monument.
Extra dopamine hit. I think it's going to be really nice. That's one of the things that I am actually really looking forward to, is seeing other people play it that haven't experienced that yet, and watching them like when that happens. I think that would be really fun. Oh, you've got some orange going on over there, man. It's gone red.
Yeah. Sorry. But look at this though.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Green,
Lots of green over here.
There you go. I'm gonna leave my screen like this, you know. That's just great.
Trust me, if it was me, it would be red all over. I know. So modular limitations and why they're good. I think we kind of covered that a bit anyway when we were talking about the size of the islands and things like that. But how does working with voxel constraints encourage smarter thinking? So like obviously it's very different having the voxel shapes than it is other kind of builds. Like some shapes has the circular ones and things like that. They're all different. How maybe why did we go voxel and what are the constraints that it gives?
Yeah, I think there is kind of many aspects. The fact that we went voxels was mainly making it more creative in a sense, or just have more possibilities than, you know, going 2D, for example.
Yeah.
But there is also obviously limitation. You don't want to just be able to, you know, have clay or something and just model clay because that just also technically is impossible to do probably, and then it just becomes too much information to try and process. And I think what's nice with voxels is you can look at the final product. I mean, this one is kind of easy, but this one.
Yeah.
You can look at this and already you can think of every steps that it contains, right?
Yes.
You can think of it as every step is like, oh, this is actually, I take a cube in 4 and then cut in 1, paint it black or whatever. You can just visualize the whole process by looking at the model. And I think that's very important to be able to grasp, basically.
Because you have to be able to think about the stages you need to go to in order to make those stages work, right? So
exactly.
It's kind of intuitive without hand-holding. Like,
yeah, for sure. And I think that's also how we kind of judge the difficulty of making a module is to like basically it's the perceived difficulty, you know. You look at something and like, oh, this looks super hard to do, or oh, this looks actually easy to do.
Yeah.
And kind of what we aim at doing is you think like trick the player into thinking it's easy to do and it's actually not. Yeah. Because that's like the best flow you can be in, right? You're like, oh, this looks easy, let me just start on it, and then without knowing 2 hours in, you're like, oh shit, how am I doing this well? And it's like that's good. And the other way around is pretty bad, right? If you look at something and for some reason you think, oh, this looks like super hard to do, even though it isn't. We had that during playtests a while back. Like we had this model which was super easy to do, but for some reason players always, when they looked at it, was like everybody would say, wow, that looks hard, even though it wasn't. Yeah. And then like later on when they do it, it's like, oh, actually that was pretty easy. But the problem is that
they won't try it. Yeah,
exactly. Like a lot of them were just dropping at that point because like, oh, that looks just too hard, let me leave, you know. Yeah. So it's like, let's not do that. But yeah, that's like the perceived difficulty is pretty interesting to play with and just very important. But I think having these voxels makes it very easy because you can count them. It's basically, I mean,
it's maths.
It is quite nice. Also, we add these now, so it's easier to count.
Yeah. And I think actually literally today we were talking about adding an extra section there of maybe like which colors you need and things like that, just for people to make it even more approachable, basically, so you can see very clearly how many blue you need, how many white you need, etc. Which again, for accessibility, that's great, but even just in general, that's really useful because it means you don't have to sit there and count. Exactly. You could just look at it and go, okay.
Because I mean, you might think, I can see there is 3 different colors, right? But later on, when you have like 6, you're like, okay, that kind of starts to become like a pain to have to count them, or like to know which colors it's using.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's again another little thing that we saw from what people were doing, and we're like, okay, we should add this in. That's like, for sure, it will help people, which is nice. And then, did you ever cut or reject an idea because it made things too easy?
Yeah, I mean, I would say pretty much every other operators that we designed at some point we threw away because, you know, we had like cutter, assembler, stamper, That was like very early on in the game. In the prototypes we had those, and then we would just add a bunch of new operators. Oh, this one just you can cut a stair or whatever. Oh, this one you do whatever else, right? And then we were always looking at those and be like, yeah, actually, it's just making a certain setup that you could do with coders and assemblers and stuff easier, right? It just removes the logistics challenge of managing, and so it's kind of dull, really. Like you would look at the final factory, and then you would have like one operator to do like one module, and you're like, yeah, that's not what we want. We want players to have this kind of setup, right? We want players to use few elements, but try and make something complicated. And so yeah, most operators ideas that we had, we just threw away because of it. Where it was just making something you could already do, but faster or easier, and then we didn't want that because that's just was kind of removing the fun out of the game, really.
Pretty much. It's kind of like those games that like let you buy level upgrades, so you're like making the game shorter for yourself, right? Like, what's the point of that?
Kind of.
Like, if you want to play the game, you don't need to skip half of it. Like, very similar. So we've got 2 sections left. We're nearly done. The next one is about the future of the game. Okay, so if you're just joining, because obviously on Steam, people come and go through Steam. They're not always sticking for a whole stream. If you're just joining us, this is just the demo. Okay, this is just the demo. There's lots more to come, and now we're going to talk about it. So, are there tools or systems coming that deepen what players can build or what they can do? Go mad. What do you want to share about what's coming in the future of Modulus?
Yeah, I think at least for me, the most interesting that will be coming, or one of the aspects is coming, is some kind of logistics, such as the sorter, which is basically an operator that will allow you to like sort shapes or sort modules based off what they are. So you could, I don't know, I would merge these two, and then these two would be on the same line, and then you would have an operator that selectively picks one, and then you can put it somewhere else.
Nice.
And that makes it so that you can basically add some logics to the game. And I think that has a lot of potential of making things like automated and everything, right? And I think that's something that most factory players really like, just automating and finding new ways of doing systems that are just more compact, because you could just merge everything into one line and then sort them back. I think that's a feature that I really look into, like forward to seeing what players come up with, basically.
Yeah, that'll be really, really cool. And like one of the things we've touched on it, we haven't really talked about a lot, is that there's going to be a tech tree. Do you want to maybe kind of explain a bit about the tech tree and what the idea is?
So there is actually currently, so in the demo, you only have like bots to deliver to the depot, and that's it, right? You just deliver them, nothing happens. You will, in the game, have kind of a separate overarching system where you can transform the cores that you're making into these buildings into data shards. That's going to be a new resource, and those resources will be used into the tech tree. So you will be farming, basically, let's call them points, to use in the like upgrades tech trees. And that's gonna be like a pretty good incentive to make you want to build more, because you will essentially be building for yourself, like to upgrade. You're gonna look at an upgrade like, oh, now you can use drones that go like between islands, or you can just buy more islands, or you can upgrade the speed of whatever you want. And there is a bunch of upgrades, also like new operators, new I don't know, like the warehouse or stuff like that just stores items, and you can have a lot of different things that you unlock through that. And so you're gonna look at it and be like, oh, I really want this upgrade, let me just work for it. And then you make the buildings that will create the data shard for you, and then get the upgrade. So I think that's gonna be a pretty big change in how we perceive the game. Because currently it's just the game telling you, okay, make bots for me, and you're like, sure, but that doesn't give you anything, right? And so I think that's gonna be a big change in the design. yeah.
I think it also adds to that level of satisfaction as well, right? Because
For sure, yeah.
as well as like making the buildings, which is satisfying, you're actually making stuff that benefits you as a player. And I think again that adds an extra step of like, okay, that I'm doing this for myself. This is really rewarding. I can see like progress happening in this tech tree. I'm working towards a specific thing. These are the things I want, and I really like that, because I think again that's one of the feedback we had about the demo is like, why am I doing this? Like, what is the point in making the bots,
exactly,
right? And essentially the demo was here to teach you what the core systems of the game are, like how you play Modulus as a base level, and then moving on from that, you're going to unlock deeper levels, you're going to unlock the tech tree, you're going to unlock, like you said, different operators, and then that's where the narrative comes into play, which will actually start making sense of like why you're doing the things you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's also like a kind of a thing we kind of tell you in the demo, like, supplying the colony. We don't tell you what the colony is, but that's kind of a hint toward the narrative side of things. That you will later on in the game also deliver bots. We don't explain it in the demo, but we will explain why in the full game. And so I think that's also like you will have both kind of working towards the narrative and also working towards just upgrading yourself.
Your own goals,
Yeah, exactly.
Which are really nice.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty like big difference as well, is when you like currently when you do buildings, right? In the demo you make a building and then that unlocks a new one, and you go and make that new one, etc. And later on you will actually also choose like if you want to make new buildings, that's gonna be like a thing to actively select. You could, like let's say I finished this building, the first one, and then you're like, yeah, actually I don't want to make this second building, let me just bump up the production of this to make like a shit ton of cores, gray cores, and like go violent gray cores just to transform them to gray data shard and use that for certain upgrades. Like you don't have to build buildings yet, it's like, yeah, sure, I'll do that after. I think that's gonna be nice as well, to just let you choose what you want to do, and for your own good, kind of.
Yeah, it's back to that level of freedom and your own expression again, right? Like it's finding that balance always between like letting a player build towards the goal, but also express themselves through their factory. And I think that's what you guys have designed really, really well. It always impresses me, the level of expression you can get in this. So I can't wait again to see what other people do with that. And I think like you said, we have like hinted at there being like a reason, like the colony, I hate that word, I struggle to say it every time. Colony exists, but what is the colony? Where are they? Like, who are they? That sort of thing. Like, I like that there's that level of narrative, because predominantly I'm the type of player that plays story-based games, and I will dip into this sort of game as like an in-between. So like when I've been playing a story game for 500 hours or whatever and I need a break, I want to play something creative or whatever. And I think Modulus allows for that kind of player to really enjoy in a way that other sort of games like this don't, because it does have that extra level to it. And we've recently just completely changed that. So you will probably notice, if you played the original demo, you were making stuff for the Grand Neural Network, right? And again, you don't know who they are, what they're doing, but you know that it was the Grand Neural Network, and it was in all of our marketing and all of our talks about it. We've actually changed that now, and worked more on refining our story. What is the point of the story? And I think I'm really excited to see that added into the main game and see what players will think of it. I think it's going to be fun to have that additional layer, which will be cool. So yeah, last little sort of section I've got is you Thomas, not you as part of Happy Volcano, but you yourself, your personal design ethos. So when you sit down to build in Modulus, what's your first instinct? Do you want to go for efficiency? Do you want to go for aesthetics? Are you trying different things out? How's your sort of like main way of building when you're building?
Yeah, I mean you look at this and you might have an answer already. I think I really like experimenting, and then most times what I do is make things compact and efficient, right? If you look at just how green everything is and how efficient this is, it's like everything is perfectly making the correct amount of things, which is great. But sometimes I also go like full on spaghetti mode and like chaos everywhere because that's just fun to do.
Yeah.
I mean, especially when I get to later stages where I kind of want to make a building faster than trying to make it efficient.
Yeah.
Just because, and then you're like, okay, fuck it, let's just try to make
Chaos
something.
mode.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think, yeah, I would probably call myself a efficiency, compact kind of players, but also experimenting. Like even
got a
this
wild side.
wireless setup is like a new thing I've been trying like now.
Yeah.
I think I wish I had other saves here, but I have these saves where I would take every single of these nodes, right, and then transform into like 16 per 16 cubes, and then
wow.
travel them back all the way here, and then start building from here, right? And it's like just for fun, just because it's funny to try something new and see how that pans out.
Yeah, I mean that comes back to what I was saying about like even though I'm not the like core audience of the game as a player myself, I did that in the demo too. Like I completely just redid it like multiple times just to see how different ways I could do it. And I think if I'm enjoying doing that, then people who like yourself are definitely going to enjoy doing that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Having fun with
There's
it.
Also, like, I mean, I think you probably haven't seen that. I might have some screenshots, but I had one time made like the whole demo only using grass tiles. Like I would only build on grass tiles basically.
Wow. Okay.
And, just for fun.
I need a screenshot and I will put
Yeah.
it into the video so that people can
just,
see it.
Like random challenges that you set yourself.
Yeah.
It's just funny to me. So yeah.
I like that though. Like people. All sorts of games, people do that sort of thing, right? Where they just put their own limits on things, and I think that's an extra level of fun that you can have. So
exactly.
That sounds like something I would do, but I would fail at it. I would try it. I wouldn't be as smart as you. And then the last question is there a moment where it all just clicked for you during development, where you went, this is going to be awesome?
I think it's probably back in the demo. The prototype. Because I think it was a point where we had all the basics operators and we started designing a few different borders. We had like houses model, like you would have a house that you had to make, right? And this was just too overwhelming, so we were trying different stuff. And then at some point, I think David, which is the game director, came with a list of models to make, and we just spent a few hours making them in the game. And I had so much fun, and I didn't realize how much hours I had put in until I put in. It's like after playing for hours and hours, I look at the time. I was like, oh, oh, the time flew by, and I was like, okay, this is I'm feeling this game now.
I love
it's like that's when it clicked for me. Yeah.
That's really special. When a game does that to you and you lose all track of time, that's that's something really special, and I love that. So it's really nice to hear that. I think a few of our players that are in the playtest right now are already going through that. There's one in particular that's like, I'm at like 40 hours, and I was like, it's a 2-hour demo. Like, what are you doing?
Exactly. Yeah, that's so insane to me as well. Yeah.
It's great though. It's really nice to see that, and just imagine the playtime of the full game. Like, what are people gonna do?
It's gonna be insane, yeah.
So, well, thank you for taking time out of your ridiculously busy schedule to show off the game. It's been really fun chatting to you, guys. If you want to follow Thomas on socials or whatever, I'll put up his handles down below so that you can do that. And we're all in the Discord. We have Ask the Devs forum, we also have a suggestions forum, and we also have a bug forum. So if you have questions from anything you've seen today, hop in there or hop on Steam, and I will be the one that sees it on Steam, and I'll pass it on and get questions for you. But we love chatting to you guys, like genuinely. Hopefully
actually please do join the Discord, and please do give us feedback. I mean, even me personally, I just look for them and push them very aggressively to the design side. I think it's just so important to listen to player feedback, especially for factory games where everything QoL feature and everything is very important.
Especially because the players are experts in this genre, right? So we want to listen to you guys what you
Exactly.
think, what's important. You know, this is our first factory game, but it's like your 6th or 7th, right? So we want to hear what you have to say.
That's true.
And hopefully you can see from the answers that Thomas has given today that like we already do that quite a lot. Like we listen to you, we put it into the game, and we work as hard as we can to improve the quality of life for you and listen and make Modulus as good as it can be. So hope you're enjoying the demo if you have already played it. If you haven't, whack it on download, get stuck in, share what you've made, join the screenshot competition, share pictures we want to see, and we'll catch you all very soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Thanks for watching. Bye bye.